We are live.
Oh,
What you
Tip.
got?
Well, I was just going to tell Tip to not look now, but the Miami Marlins are continuing on. The state of Florida, in particular, South Florida sports magic that has been happening circa 2023.
They're playing great ball right now. There's no doubt about that. Big series coming up. They're coming to Atlanta.
Are they when?
Starting Friday.
This Friday.
Yep. Friday,
I need to
Saturday,
go.
Sunday.
Let me
I
just
may
say,
go.
boys, my Oakland Athletics,
Bad
when,
ball club.
when they get to Vegas, it's going to be a good old time.
Jeff, come on, dude. Moneyball's old, buddy. You can't quit living in the
Yeah, but he's
past. Moneyball didn't
finally
work.
moving. Hopefully we'll get some money. Hopefully he sells the team.
It's gonna change everything.
We'll have we'll be a destination for free agents. Somebody wants to go
Well,
to
I
Oakland.
mean,
Yep.
the Vegas Knights have been pretty good since they got going.
Now if we can just get the Raiders going, we'll get the A's going. The Dubs are San Francisco, but they've been.
So are you
rolling.
just gonna jump on the is Vegas gonna be your hometown like sports city?
I mean, I'm not a Knights fan, so
yeah.
just
Or
you know,
you
the
got
big-
the
my
San
big
Jose
team.
Sharks. Is that your hockey team if
Yeah.
you were to have one? Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah, I may need to
is.
go up there, dude. But at some point, one of these Miami teams is gonna have to win because it's getting to be real frustrating getting all the way to the ship and then
Yeah.
losing. Even when you go to FAU and University of Miami in the Final Four, both losing. And then women's University of Miami lost in the Final Four, the Elite Eight or something like that. The Heat, man, I thought that was going to happen for me. That was a
I don't know.
destiny.
It's a tough one.
Nothing they could have done.
Denver's just
Denver's too
they're
good.
real good.
We got to trade for Lillard or something, is the rumor. For Lillard, but Lillard, they keep acting like he wants out of there, but every year he does this, and then he never asks for the trade. So I don't know if it's him or if it's like his camp just pushing the narrative so Portland will pay him more or whatever. But
We'll see.
pissing me off, dude.
But big defensive football night, boys. We're right around the corner. We're not far.
Oh, well, I was just going to tell you, this is our, well, I'll say it on the podcast too, but last episode before conference previews need to begin. We have penciled in, just an FYI, I'll just do a little teaser. We have penciled in week 1 and week 2, and probably week 3 also, depending on what's going on at that point. But
definitely tease that during the show too.
Ain't no doubt. There's no doubt about it.
Ready when you are,
Jeff, you
Strauss.
tell me when to go. We got some people in. We got this thing fired up, ready to roll.
Yep.
Just give me the countdown, boss. Welcome into the #1 Group of 5 football podcast in the world. We are the Group of 5 guys. Our goal, our mission is to be the voice to give the pride and the excitement to the Group of 5 football programs that the mainstream sports media, ESPN, and the likes refuse to do. We need your help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of 5 guys. We need you to go on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe, like, give us a 5-star rating and review. Tell your family and friends about us, or you can go to group5guys.com, get you some Group of 5 Guys swag. I know this shirt that I've got on is from there. That helps us a lot as we plan which games we go to. A lot of it depends on how much it's going to cost. So we need some funds in that regard. In this show, we are talking top defensive players to watch out for in 2023. We talked about offense last show, had a really good time, had some solid debate, had some people frustrated on the Twitter sphere. Defense tonight. Enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
Lee Corso is a guy who had a retirement party 10 years ago, and yet he still won't leave the office.
Projected getting drafted between the first and third round. Like, that's incredible.
That's impressive.
The wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of 5.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
You know, I really appreciate you do for the Group of 5 programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are on the forefront of this, and
so I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of 5 because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, you know, and fans follow that kid.
I appreciate what you guys do, truthfully, covering the Group of 5. I mean, y'all said it earlier, but the Sun Belt to me is college football.
Jeff, Tip, I got something for you. As we wind into the summer, we get ready for fall camp. I begin doing my preseason preparations. I start reading all these idiots in the magazine. I also start reading some football, sports business type books. And one of my favorites, as you guys know, if you're watching, you can see right here, Saturday Millionaires. I'm not going to show you which team is on the cover, but Saturday Millionaires by Christy Dosh. Now, this book, I believe, was written circa, it's like 2013 or 2012 or something like that. But I've got 2 little sentences for you that I read right in the first chapter that got me fired up. Quote, a study has shown that a top 10 finish in the AP poll at the end of the season translates to a 4.4% increase in enrollment. So, what does that mean for everybody? You take a look at a team like Tulane that finished in the top 10 last year. In this book, they use the Arkansas Razorbacks. Believe it or not, they finished top 10 at one point. So if you use their number, so Arkansas, when this book was written, a little over 19,000 undergrad enrollment, fall of 2011. A 4.4 increase would mean 837 students. If you take into account their tuition and their fees, that would be $9.6 million per year, straight from a top 10 AP football finish at the University of Arkansas. Now, of course, that may translate, differently for other schools, but that's sort of something that we talk about all the time. And then this other one, this is actually talking about Boise State. And here's what I've tweeted this before. I've said this before. Maybe I got this from this book and I didn't give the proper credit, so I'd like to do that now. This is a direct quote. So when we talk about more enrollment, more applications allow the university to be more selective. Students with better academic profiles attract better professors. Top professors mean more research grants and academic recognition. Better academic reputation leads to a higher ranking. A higher ranking attracts higher profile students and professors, and so on. And it all started with football. So a lot of the debate is always, we always say make football the front porch, the primary brand of the school. And I think a lot of people take that as give to football, take away from academics. But right here, based on the numbers, it's the complete opposite. Football is the advertisement for your school, whether you like it or not. It's the biggest, it's the thing that's on TV the most. I mean, even if you're a academic school like Harvard or Yale or whatever, I mean, on TV, you're probably not seeing anything but football. And so that's the point that we always try to make. And shout out if you like numbers and like some of that stuff. That book's fantastic. Saturday Millionaires. Pick it up on the Amazon world. But just wanted to bring that up as we get closer to season, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of programs that are not invested in the football program, and we see the problem with that.
Yeah, and from experience coming from a university that, from a former athlete, where it does not seem like the administration and the athletic department is on the same page. And then you look at some other schools that have progressed so much, over like a 5 to 10 year period where they both are in sync. It just makes a huge difference when everybody understands that football is your moneymaker. It is, you have the TV money, you have the bowl game reward money, you have all these other things that drive the finances, and then that gets spread out, over the entire university. And when you have year in and year out of a great program, great product on the field, great atmosphere. It all just builds. And football's not, they're not going to keep it all. I mean, the athletic director, the president of the school, they can decide how that money's going to be split, as far as I understand it. And that's where those two being in cohesion helps everybody. But when you have two that don't seem to get it, that seem to honestly have different agendas, then you're just kind of at a stalemate. Honestly, what we've had in Washington for the last 10, 20 years, where you just it's political gridlock, and nothing really gets done, and it's just frustrating, because we want our alma maters, we want our schools to be the best that they can be, and you can only have that when honestly both parties are on the same page, and you're putting football specifically first.
Well, and y'all always hear me talk about my other favorite book, Brands Win Championships. And I mean, yeah, as much as we dislike that this happens, it does happen. When you get a committee of human beings, they look at the logo on the helmet before they look at anything else. And you have to give credit to those programs that do make football the primary thing. I mean, listen, dude, Alabama is a fantastic academic school, as far as I know. I think it is. But you don't ever but they know damn well Nick Saban runs that community.
Yeah.
And having good football there for as long as they've had good football has made their academics better. And it's made even more so on the tuition side. It's made people from out of state want to go there. And so your tuition fees are obviously more expensive for out of state. So, I mean, you can't, we want to complain and people want to say, well, the little old group of 5 schools, we just don't have the resources. But you gotta start somewhere. One more thing, I don't want to go on a rant. There's another part in this book that talks about Northwestern University in Chicago, who's whatever, they're a fine football program. They don't really win anything ever, but they're a big time academic school. But 70+% of publicity on the University of Northwestern is football. As good as they are academically and as mediocre as they are in football, that's where it is. That's where the eyes are, man. It's tough break if you don't like football or you don't play it or you whatever, but it is what it is, man.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Sprouse, the University of Alabama, and you have some of these Power 5 schools, and then you get some big name guys, specifically a head coach that wants to be at a group of 5 school in Birmingham, and I just think it was a good segue to roll right into this. Trent Dilfer was on, I can't remember the name of the podcast, we'll get to it here in a second, but he's not too happy about some of these Power 5s trying to poach the top talent in the group of 5 programs. And he had something to say about it. And I think we should play this clip real quick and then talk about
Play it.
It's easy for a coach to say, oh, man, you're going to jump right into this nickel spot and you're going to play in national televised games every week. And that's really easy to say. And then kid shows up and he's like, well, wait a second. Why am I the third guy? By the way, come try to get my guys.
Right.
Like, I dare you, Power 5s. I got a pretty big platform that I can step on.
Yeah.
And if I find you in my kids' DMs, and if I find you talking to high school coaches about my kids, if you're in my roster, I'm going to call your ass out. I'm going to say it by name to the biggest voices in television today, and it's going to make Game Day, and it's going to make Sports Center, and it's going to make, because by the way, those guys running Sports Center are still my friends.
That's right. I still got their
So
sale.
go ahead. I dare you to jump into my roster. And I told the American coach the same thing. I said, why don't you guys have the you-know-whats to stand up and say, get out of my roster?
Right.
I said, here's why, because you want their job.
Oh,
You
said it.
I want this job.
That's right.
I don't want no power. I want this job. I want to live in Birmingham. I want to live downtown. I want to go see my grandson in Nashville. I don't want that other job. So I don't care if you blackball me.
Right.
I want this job. I want the city of Birmingham to say, no, that's our city. That's our coach. Right. And so go ahead. I'm not scared of whoever, the grand poopah of poopahs, to blackball me. Right? Like, get out of my roster. These are my guys. I love these guys. Stay the hell out of it.
Amen, Trent Dilfer.
Listen, I was a little unsure about Trent Dilfer at UAB, but that right there, I'm all in. I'm all in
100%.
on Trent Dilfer. And it's really interesting he said, some of the other coaches, because Traylor at UTSA is the other coach that's been very vocal about this. And he's also been very vocal about wanting to stay at UTSA. So very interesting, the two. And, Tip, you mentioned it before the show. He did stop himself short of saying, I don't want any power.
I want to be here.
I want to be here.
He did, yeah. But can I play devil's advocate really fast here with this?
Please.
Yes,
just from if you're a player at UAB and you're getting those messages from Power 5 schools or from other schools, whatever the case may be, and they make, they want the decision to make the decision to go to a different school. They want to leave UAB for whatever reason. That's where I kind of have a problem with it. If Trent's, calling out these coaches and whatnot, but it might be a situation where the player just, he wants to leave for whatever the reason may be. So I just, and to kind of to talk about his point of why the other coaches don't have the what's to step up to those Power 5 coaches. I think it's because a lot of those, if not all those coaches, don't have the platform that Trent Dilfer has with with the media at ESPN and all the other media platforms.
Yeah, they would say it and it would get just washed away in the media because we know who's running the sports media. And the other thing is, unfortunately, the coaching network is so tight knit. So, they might have coached under the guy that is the guy in their players' DMs. But I'll just, to rebuttal you, Tip, on, it's like, if they want to leave, then enter the portal. And then you can get recruited and it's fine. But what Dilfer's talking about is when they're not in the transfer portal, they're just doing their thing. And then, whether they want to leave or not, it's got to be distracting to get, somebody else in your DMs. I mean, it's like if I get some, guy with 6-pack abs in my wife's DMs, I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to like it. Now, if she gets in the portal, hey, do your thing. but I'm calling them out.
That's a great.
I'm going to call them out on my platform if they do.
Absolutely. And speaking of our platform, as the world can see, our good buddy Swag Bear Grisham is out tonight on a work trip, but he's in the chat, boys.
He is in the chat.
He says, "Remember that clip if Trent Dilfer leaves."
No,
100%.
Got to keep the receipts, boys. Got to keep the receipts.
100%.
Hopefully he's true to his word.
I don't know where Dilfer doesn't seem like a guy that fits a whole lot. I mean, when we talked about like Hugh Freeze going, like everybody knew he fits the SEC type or whatever. Even like Chadwell, who's now at Liberty, you think like, yeah, I could see him going somewhere. I don't know where Dilfer would be. He doesn't. Yeah, I don't know, but
it's interesting, and I do get it. Like, while those players are on the UAB roster, like, it's like you mentioned, Sprouse, it's a distraction when you have other coaches. Even if the player's like, man, I want to transfer, I want to get out of here, and he's messaging other coaches, and then there's a back and forth conversation there, and then Trent Dilfer finds out about it, and that's a conversation that Trent's going to have with that player. It's like, look, if you don't want to be here, go ahead and enter the transfer portal. Yeah. And, and good luck wherever you may go. But I mean, Trent has a great point. I mean, let's ease up on the, on the talking and messaging these players while they're on rosters.
The portal's tough, man. It's tough on everybody because also, I will say if you're a player and you're not in the best situation and you want to leave, but you also don't have coaches in your DMs. You don't want to enter the portal and not have an option. And then you got to come back and play for this coach that you just told, like, I don't want to be here. So it is not only is the transfer portal and the NIL ruining college football, it has now ruined video game football because these players, we got to talk about that for a second too, guys. We're not going to get the EA Sports NCAA football game because of very small percentage of players that are making more than $500 want more than $500 for the EA game. And if you remember, I remember, Jeff, I think you were still in, on the team when there was a class action lawsuit and I think I made like $100. You guys that were, on the roster for multiple years. I think Grisham probably made a couple $100. I was ecstatic about that.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I was ecstatic that my people that I knew could be like, oh, damn, Sprouse is in the video game, even if he is a 62 overall and third string left tackle and the wrong number and the wrong everything. Like, it's pretty damn cool. He's in the game. And that's all I thought about, man.
Yeah, I was more pumped, and then we can move on to the actual defensive players. But I was just Jack being in a video game, and I mean, they didn't quite have my skin tone right and my haircut, but that's okay. I was in the video game. It was number
were you
12.
a black guy?
No, but I was definitely a little darker than my actual skin tone is now. But no, man, it was just cool to be in the game. You could go and play yourself, and I was 68 overall. It was great.
It's good, man. It's pretty good. 68. It's better than most people, Well, anyway, we got to get to the real topic of the show. Before we do that, we got to talk about Prize Picks. It's baseball season now, but I will tell you get on there on Tuesdays and on Fridays. They got a lot of free promos where you can get, a pitcher at half a strikeout discount. So go on there, go on Prize Picks, download the app, use our code GOFG. They will give you up to $100 match on your first time deposit. So free $100 to play with. So go to Prize Picks, enjoy that daily fantasy app. Defensive players, guys. I mean, we could take the easy route and just put up, Troy's depth chart here and call it an episode. But I think we should discuss some of the other guys. I want to start with DBs. And I don't know how you guys did it. I didn't really separate between safety and corner. But I got a couple of guys. First guy I was going to mention, Rashad Wisdom at UTSA. He was better his sophomore and junior year, and he's coming back for a fifth year. Bigger guy, could come up and stop the run, so not going to be a big stat filler as far as interceptions, turnovers goes. The guy was first team All-Conference USA sophomore and junior year, and kind of had a bit of an off year last year. Looking forward to watching him as one of the better players on that defense as they move into the American and potentially play. You do get away from Western Kentucky, but you're going to get some high-powered offenses in that conference. So I want to start with Tip. Who do you got at DB, whether you did corner or safety?
Yeah, so I got a couple of Toledo guys on here. Quinion Mitchell, he's a cornerback going into his junior year this year for Toledo. Last season, he had 42 total tackles, 5 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, and 20 pass breakups. That was first in the MAC, and that was a Toledo all-time record. And he was first team All-MAC last season and second team All-American last season. And then go to the safety position for Toledo. You got Maxon Hook back there. He's also going into his junior season. Last season, he was first team All-MAC as well. 81 total tackles and 2 interceptions. So I saw someone make a comment on our Twitter question that we had out there, and I can't remember exactly who it was, so I apologize, but they mentioned the Toledo DBs, and looking into it and doing the research, Toledo has some extremely talented cornerbacks and safeties this season.
The MAC, we haven't said a whole ton about the MAC, on our offensive side of the ball, but also at DB, Marcus Fuqua at Buffalo, third team All-American, first team All-MAC. 7 picks last year, tied for the lead in the country, and he also had 65 tackles. So pretty versatile at Buffalo. Again with the MAC, Buffalo, they'll probably be 7-5, but that could win the conference. So look for him anchoring that defense too. Murph, who you got?
And I got a couple here. I'm going to be honest. I think the DBs. I don't know. I was going to say the DBs might be top across the board. There's some really good D-line and linebackers we'll get to in a minute. But I'm going to just start off. I love great names, right? There's a safety out of South Alabama, Yam Banks. This kid's a stud. He's 6'1", 208. I like the bigger DBs. He had 50 total tackles last year, 6 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown. Nobody's really talking about South Alabama. I think that defense is going to be really good again this year. So look out for Yam Banks. And I'm going to stay two names, and I'm going to stay at the safety position right now. I got the Fort Air Raid hat on. but Jack Howell at Colorado State. This guy had 108 total tackles last year. He's a guy that comes down the box, likes to hit, always just seems to be around the ball. I know Colorado State had a rough run last year with first year coach and Jay Norvell, but everywhere he's been able to turn programs around, and they've been contenders fairly quickly. Look out for Jack Howell at Colorado State, and then I'm going to stay right home here. My boy Trey Fluellen, the MTSU Blue Raiders
player,
safety,
man.
is coming back. 6'2", 205, had 104 tackles last year, 2 interceptions. But the guy's just I got the opportunity to call the radio last year for him. I got to see him play every game. That guy's always around the football in defense, whether it's a pass, whether it's a run. He'll come up. He's not afraid to lay his hat, and he can track the ball well in the back end too, and get pass breakups and interceptions. So I think the safety position is top notch in the group of 5 this year. Then a couple names to keep an eye out for at the safety position. Cam Lockridge out of Fresno State. I think he's going to be a great player. And then I don't know if you guys said it or not, but Reddy Stewart, Troy's cornerback. I think he's a dynamic player, can cover very, very well one-on-one coverage. So, I mean, look out for the DBs in the group of 5. And then the last name I'm going to put is Micah Abram, Marshall's corner. This guy's played really well last year. He's a taller guy at 6'2", had 6 interceptions last year. He's a ball hawk, and with that front 4 that Marshall has, he's going to get a lot of opportunities to go get some more interceptions this year.
Jeff, I got 2 things for you. One, another guy at South Alabama to look for, missed all of last year, Keith Gallman. But he was a PFF All-American. Now, I know PFF's a little bit different because it's just going on a grading scale. But either way, that means he was hitting his assignments. So he's a guy to watch at South. You're right. Nobody's really talking about South. I don't know. I think they have a pretty big game week 1 that we should think about going to. But, that's another one.
Yeah, we'll look into it. Yeah, we'll look into it.
And then I'll say this, Jeff, and I'll ask this question. We talked about a few safeties on here with a lot of tackles. Does that worry you at all about the defense as a whole when the safeties having 70, 80 tackles in a season? Or does that just tell you the safety's a ball, or, a guy that gets to the ball?
It depends on the team and what style of defense they play. A lot of strong safeties, they'll be in the box. Now you got your free safety, the guy who's playing, deep middle or that cover 2 to one side. If he's mainly a coverage guy, he's getting a lot of tackles, then yeah, it means guys are getting to the second level and he's having to do the bulk of it. But some of these guys, man, I just think that they just have a nose for the ball. And anytime you got a guy that's got over 100 tackles,
yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. I don't care, if you're a DB or a linebacker, like you're naturally always around the ball and you're not giving up on plays. He plays whistle to whistle, and I can say, like Trey Fluellen, that guy is nonstop until the running back or receiver is on the ground.
Yeah, you like to see it. Maybe that's the next great safety out of middle, Jeff? Out of DBU, if you will.
I'm just saying. I mean, they've had a track record, to put out DBs in the NFL. And, there's been other guys. Quincy Riley was a guy who left the year before last and went to Louisville. Did not see the field anywhere near as much at Louisville that he does at middle. But I'm really glad that Trey, has stayed. And I'm sure people have been in his DMs trying to get him to go somewhere. So really,
he transferred
really
in, didn't he?
Stay. Yeah, he
transferred. Didn't he transfer from an FCS, right? Like Chattanooga or something like that?
The Bailey Zappi School. Why can't I not think of the name?
Baptist.
Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
Houston Baptist.
Houston Baptist.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
That's where him and Zappi were at the same school.
Huh. Interesting. Let's move to the D-line. And I know there's a couple of guys on here that you could probably say as a D-line defensive end, or you could probably have them at linebacker as an outside linebacker, but just wherever you decide to put them. I want to go first here. My guy. I've been talking about this guy for 3 years. 6'3", 355, Boca Raton, Florida. Evan Anderson. Now look, the stat sheet, when you're 6'3", 355, you're not going to have a ton of stats. He only had 24 tackles and a sack last year. But here's a guy where I don't know the numbers, but I'm willing to bet that their safety doesn't lead the team in tackles, because I bet you Evan Anderson is taking that double team every single time. And I told you guys when I saw him his freshman year versus middle, down there at FAU. I was standing on the field wondering why in the hell is this single-digit defensive tackle just destroying that poor center. I mean, he wouldn't get a sack, but he's just putting the center in the quarterback's lap. And that's, as you know, Jeff, that's the worst kind of pressure you can have as a quarterback.
It's the hardest
that guy's
pressure
a problem
to deal with.
And I mean, I'm sure he's got people in his DMs. He stayed at FAU making the jump. What a freaking piece to have in the middle of your defense as you quote unquote, move up a conference a little bit. So Evan Anderson, look out for that guy. I'm going to talk about him until he gets drafted.
And Sprouse, let me add something to that. He was banged up last year, so those are his stats, but he only played, I think he played 5, maybe 6 games. So it's like, if he can stay on the field, I think he had foot problems or something. If he can stay on the field and be healthy, maybe drop a couple pounds, I mean, that you're not kidding. I saw him when they played middle at home last year, and I mean, you ain't moving the guy. I mean, he's just a stump in the ground, not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's a good one. So really excited to watch him. I want to stay with you, Jeff. Who you got?
I'm going to go with who I think might be the best defensive lineman in the group of 5, guy out of Marshall, Owen Porter. Yeah. This guy is an absolute stud. 6'3", 240 pounds. He had 60 tackles last year, 9.5 sacks. When you get that type of production on defense, it just makes everybody's job behind him that much better. And the biggest key especially is if you can get after these quarterbacks and put pressure on them, it makes everything so much more difficult. If you could make, a team one-dimensional, or if you can take away what a team does really well, now they're trying to play catch up and make adjustments to your defense. So look out for Owen Porter, man. Marshall, I think, is going to have a really, really good defense this year. And I think they're going to have another great season.
We've got to get, if they're watching or listening, if we've got anybody from Marshall watching, we've got to get Coach Trickett on, and we've got to get Ralph Street, who I know real well, was at the Air Force Prep School when I was there as a defense coordinator. He's their D-line coach at Marshall, so I would love to pick his brain about this guy. He's got to be, Street, we had some good D tackles, D ends at Air Force, but this dude's something special. But listen, somebody asked on Twitter who the best defense in the Sun Belt is, and in my opinion, it's still Troy until somebody dethrones them. But Marshall is going to be very, very good defensively. So is James Madison. There's some good ones, but speaking of Troy, about TJ Jackson on their defense. Well, like I said before the show, you could just put Troy's depth chart on here. They lose Carlton Marshall, and they lose some guys, but they are freaking loaded. TJ Jackson, 14.5 tackles for a loss and 8 sacks. Jeez. So he's right behind Porter. And then, so I'll give you this. Here's a little fun fact for you. I think this was in Athlon or Phil Steele, one of the magazines. So you got 14.5 tackles for a loss, 8 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Only 16 players in the country had that stat line. And, of course, he was first team all Sun Belt. So he's another guy that's going to anchor that defensive line. And, man, forgive me, I can't remember the guy's name, but we met their other D tackle down in Mobile who was in a sling, if you guys don't remember.
Yeah,
so,
I do remember him. And they got another guy too, Sprouse, at Troy, Richard Jubinor. So,
he's a hoss.
Look, between the both of them, you got those guys up front. Look, I don't know. I don't know what you do. You can't double them both.
You got Jubinor, and then you've got the one who's the biggest specimen of all of them, Javon Solomon, who we all saw standing on the sideline at their spring game a year ago. If you're a guy that is into exercising or like work, do yourself a favor and go follow Troy's strength coach, Rusty Witt, on social media. That guy posted a video the other day, and I don't know who it was. It was I think it might have been Jubinor. He's got the freaking safety squat bar with like 4 plates on either side. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Troy's doing a max squat day. He sticks his back leg up on the bench and does a Bulgarian split squat for like 4 reps with like 450. I'm like, bro, I'm holding 15-pound dumbbells doing Bulgarian split squats. And I like to think I'm a pretty strong guy. And dude, they are freaks at Troy. They all look the
water
part
down there.
Yeah. They all look the part. They got that badass weight room. They got that steep freaking hill that he's got them running sprints up. I don't know if you just got genetics or you give the strength program some credit, but they got some monsters down there at Troy that not only look the part, but obviously perform on the field too. Tip, who we missing on this list here?
I got a couple of guys from Tulane that I want to talk about. Darius Hodge and Patrick Jenkins. And both these guys last year finished with just south of 40 total tackles. Hodge had 5 sacks, and Patrick Jenkins had 3 sacks. And both of these guys were second team all AAC last year. But just what you were talking about, Sprouse, with Troy's defensive line, when you have multiple guys on the line that are producing, it's just, as an offensive line, it's just extremely difficult to account for and block all of those guys. Because 39 tackles and 37 tackles doesn't sound like a lot, but like you mentioned, Sprouse, that just means your edge rushers and your linebackers and everyone else are the ones getting those tackles, because you got these guys in the middle causing so much havoc and chaos on the in the trenches that it's opening it up for the rest of your defense. And I want to talk about one more guy, Devontae O'Malley from Northern Illinois. He's second team All MAC last year, 35 total tackles and 5 sacks. But he's going into his junior year, so I'm looking for him to have a great season and to hopefully get first team All MAC honors this year.
I got one more defensive lineman I want to talk about out of the Mountain West. Praise, I'm gonna screw up this last name. Praise Amawule out of UTEP, redshirt senior. He's 3 sacks away from breaking the all-time school record at UTEP. He's been first or second team all conference every year that he's been there. So look out for him. Praise Amawule at UTEP. Jeff, who else you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go out west as well. I think there's a team out west.
Oh no, here it comes.
That's gonna be a little bit of a sleeper, and I think there's 2 guys on their defensive line that anchors that defense out in Wyoming. And the guy I'm gonna talk about is Devon Harris. This guy's 6'4", 225. He had 57 tackles last year, 8.5 sacks in the Mountain West. And then another guy on the same D line, Jordan Bertagnoli. Sounds like a Paisan. I don't know if he's Italian or not, but he sure ends in a vowel, and he looks like it. So 6'4", 283. He had 5 sacks himself. And then another defensive lineman in the Mountain West at Colorado State again, Mohamed Kamara, 6'1", 250. He had 8.5 sacks last year. So there's a couple defensive linemen in the Mountain West to keep an eye on, and especially I just have a feeling about Wyoming. I just think I don't know how Fresno State's going to be this year. I think there's some, San Diego State might be moving on. I don't know. Might be some moving around in the pecking order out west.
I had a very tough time. I was putting together that little graphic for the tight ends to watch, and we had San Diego State's tight end there. I really wanted to delete that son of a bitch. No, I was like, cause did y'all read their like the actual letter was posted, and it was just like what we said. It was basically like, we're waiting for the other conferences. Like, this has nothing to do with us. We're waiting on them. It's like, well, it has everything to do with you. You're wanting to leave, but you're unsure of who you want to go to.
Well, did you see what the Mountain West's response was?
I did not.
They were basically like, no.
Good.
They're like, we're not gonna like help you with this. Like, you're obligated to do, fill out your contract or however it works. Like, sorry. And everybody's like, oh, this is so petty. It's like, what's petty about that? Like, you've signed an agreement. What are they gonna do?
They're going to go to the Pac-12, and then in 4 or 5 years, everybody that's at the top of the Pac-12 is going to be in the Big Ten, and then the Pac-12 is going to merge back with the Mountain West anyways. And it's going to be the same conference. You're going to add Oregon State and Washington State into it, and it's going to be the old Mountain West minus Utah and TCU.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. It is what it is. But these guys, this conference realignment stuff, I can't keep up with it. I can't keep up with the portal. I'm trying to read these magazines to do my research, and half the guys, I'm like, ain't no way that guy's still there. And I look it up, and they transferred 2 years ago. The magazines don't even have UTSA in the right conference, for God's sake. I mean, how can you publish a magazine? How can you put together a magazine and let it go through printing and go through publishing, and you probably have 26 people edit the damn thing, and you don't even have arguably the best team in the group of 5 in the correct conference? Meanwhile, you got Phil Steele, who's a one-man show, who puts out a freaking encyclopedia on every single team in the country, and I don't think he misses a stat. It's like, man, come on. The lack of – it's like when damn it. What happened last year on ESPN? They did something. They've had
the Georgia
like
State
the Sun
quarterback?
Belt. Yes. Georgia State was playing
They're playing Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern was playing,
it was
but
Kyle
they were
Van
talking
Treese on
yeah.
what, right?
No, but I'm pretty sure Georgia Southern wasn't even playing. And they talked about Kyle Van Treese.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what it was.
And they said Georgia State. It was like App State was playing Coastal or something. And they were like, both of these teams are trying to catch Georgia State. And they got highlight film of Kyle Van Treese going. I mean, that's what it was. It was like somebody had to have the idea, write the thing, it go through whoever proofreads. I mean, just embarrassing. Just embarrassing is all.
I just
really
wish there was a group of guys that were willing to cover this and, be accurate.
I mean, dude,
and mildly entertaining at the
you know
same
how many
time.
times like either me or Swag has tweeted something and I've gotten called out on it being wrong, and then I'm like, damn, and it eats me up for days. These guys put out a magazine, sell it on bookshelves, and I don't think they give a shit who reads it or who whatever. Excuse my language. I'm getting fired up here. I mean, I'm over here sweating. I mean, it is unbelievable. We got to talk about linebackers here, guys. We talked about the guys at Troy, like Solomon and Jubinor could be either or. They're sort of tweeners. I got two guys. I want to go to one that I don't know if you guys will mention. There's one that's probably that has a good case for being the best linebacker in the group of 5 that I have on here, but I'll let one of you guys talk about it. I want to talk about going back to the MAC, and I've talked about this guy for a couple years at Akron, Bubba Arslanian. He's been there.
Great
he
name.
has been there for a decade and a half. 129 tackles last year. He had 125 tackles his freshman year, which is when I started taking notice to the guy. He had 2 sort of off years. I don't know if he was banged up those 2 years, probably making all the damn tackles for Akron for 3 seasons. But I look back to him. He's the leader of that team. We talked about before, Akron has a chance to be one of these teams that takes advantage of the transfer portal, can get some local talent in there. But he's the leader of that team. And shout out to him, because Akron has been bad for a while, and he has stayed as the leading tackler of that team, and I'm sure he had opportunities. So shout out to Bubba Arslanian at Akron, another guy that finds himself at the ball all the time. I want to go. Who else do you guys got? Tip, I'll go to you first. Who else you got at linebacker?
So I got a few guys, but I'll start with Jason Henderson from Old Dominion.
Yep.
Last year led the country with 186 total tackles. He was first team All Sun Belt and third team All American. So you want to talk about a ball hawk? I mean, this guy seems to always be in the play on defense, and I look for him to have 150 plus tackles again this year. And then also going back out to the west to Wyoming, we have Easton Gibbs out in Wyoming last season, 121 total tackles, 3 sacks, and was first team All Mountain West Conference. So watch out for this Wyoming defense.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, they got the pieces. They got these guys coming back with experience. So look out for Wyoming this year. And then out of Buffalo, coming back for his senior year, Sean Dolek. Last year, 147 total tackles, led the country with 97 solo tackles. Look for him to get 100 plus this year. 13 tackles for loss and 4.5 sacks. Just an all-around, just great player. Like I said, coming back for his senior year, he's going to want to perform and have a great senior year. So look for a good season from him this year.
Damn, son, 90 solo. Like,
That's a lot.
That's crazy. That's
Wonder how many targeting calls he had called against him. Because nowadays you make a solo tackle, it's probably targeting. I mean, or horse collar.
Well, the problem only with that is Sprouse. Other than a couple teams in the MAC, usually the targeting happens when they're throwing the ball. Most of those teams in the MAC run it, so he's probably just filling those holes, shooting those gaps.
Dude, that sucker's shoulders and head. A Tuesday night, 26 degrees in Buffalo, New York. You ever been to Buffalo?
Nope.
You ever been to the Niagara Falls up that way? Dude, it's brutal. Brutal. And I can't imagine. I mean, you clap your hands, it hurts. This guy's making 90 tackles by himself, dude. Unbelievable on that turf, that Buffalo turf. They got the track. He's probably sliding on the track, dude. That guy has got to be beat to hell and back after every season. But looking forward to watching him. Dude, hey, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night football is going to be sweet this year. I was unsure about it at first, but from a spectator sense, it's going to be awesome having 3 games on Tuesday nights now. And there's a lot of, big time games, rivalry games, conference implication type games on Tuesday, Wednesday night now. So I'm pretty fired up for it. Jeff, who else are we missing here at linebacker?
Yeah, I got a couple guys that I'm going to talk about. The San Antonio Roadrunners, Trey Moore. This guy's 6'3", 230 pounds. Comes off the edge a lot, but he had, let's see if I can get. He had 8 sacks last year. I mean, he's just a menace, and I think he's only going to be better this year. 56 total tackles. He's a monster on that defense, and going into the American, they love to throw the ball. He is going to have to get pressure on these quarterbacks. And then Jaquez Evans out of Western Kentucky, another guy, 6'2", 250. He'll be a junior this year. 107 total tackles. He had 9 sacks last year. I think this guy's gonna be special, especially in Conference USA. You got some of these newer teams coming in. They're gonna have to get after Liberty's quarterback. I think Western and Liberty are gonna be at the top of that conference. So having him coming back is going to be a huge piece to that defense. And then just a couple names to keep an eye on. Honorable mention guys. DJ Schramm out of Boise State. He's a good player. Senior coming back, kind of leads that defense. And then Clayton Call out of Ball State. Another very, very good linebacker that, I mean, in the MAC, you've got to have good linebackers that can come up, fill holes, and make tackles. So a lot of good linebackers in the MAC.
And I got one more to add. Marquez Watson Trent down in Georgia Southern, 113 total tackles last year, second team All Sun Belt. I think he's going to have a great year. I think Georgia Southern's going to have a great year. We'll talk about them. You'll be hearing me talking about them a lot in the Sun Belt preview. Just a little teaser heads up. I like Georgia Southern a lot this season.
Well, the last question I got for you, Tip, because I know you're ready. What did you say last week? You talked about kickers and punt. Who did you talk about last week? I know you've got a kicker,
I talked about the kickers because your place kickers, they score points too. For defense this week, for this pod, we have punters because a punter can be a defensive team's best friend when you're pinning them deep. Just think about it. You're on defense. You got them pinned back inside the 20, inside the 10-yard line. You just feel so much better versus if the ball's further up or even you're starting on your side of the 50. It just deflates the whole defense. So let's talk about some punters here, boys. Here we go. Lucas Dean, UTSA.
Been there a long time.
He has, going into his senior year. Last year, averaged 45.2 yards per punt. He was second team All Conference USA. So I see him be right up there, second team, first team in the AAC this year for their first year. Great stat here that I liked about Lucas Dean. 45% of his punts were downed inside the opponent's 20-yard line.
Nice.
That's huge. And for a defense, that's big time right there. Only had 3 touchbacks last year. That was 6% of his punts were touchbacks into the end zone. So that's great to see that number low and to see that ball being kicked inside the 20-yard line as many times as it was for him. Somebody else for punters, Mitchell Tomasek out of Eastern Michigan. He averaged 44 yards per punt last season. He was first team All-MAC. And then we have Aaron Rodriguez from New Mexico going into his senior year. He also averaged 44 yards per punt, and he was second team All Mountain West. And then Dom Jobin, Miami of Ohio, 42.5 yards per punt last year. He was second team All MAC. 37% of his punts were down inside the opponent's 20-yard line. So those are some big-time numbers right there from those punters. Look to see all those guys have great years this year and to help his defense out, pin that ball deep.
Here's the other thing too. Punting in the MAC, it's like kicking a brick, dude.
Awful too.
Let's talk about punting back up. Let's go back to Buffalo and punt one of those bricks. Oh, yeah.
I don't envy anybody that has to do anything. I mean, because every position is hard when it's cold. I mean, you think about a quarterback having to even
that's the most difficult. That's the most difficult job.
Jeez.
Trying to
You
throw.
got gloves on. You got a parka. You get to wear on the sideline. You got probably nowadays. They got air conditioned helmets now. I'm sure they're gonna have heaters in helmets now. You got hand warmers. You got your little fanny pack you wear. Stand behind the lineman to block the wind.
Anyway. Imagine going back to offense side of the ball. Imagine if you're a kicker up in Buffalo, got a 45-yarder lined up, and it's 0 degrees, and you know before you even kick the ball that it's gonna hurt. You're about to kick a center block, and not only that, you got to try and make it in between the posts to win the game.
Where's Tom Brady when you need him to deflate the ball a little bit? That's why he did it.
Here's the deal. They ain't kicking that in Buffalo. They're not sending
Probably not.
I would like to see a stat of, fourth and how many yards in the MAC versus the rest of the conferences to see if they're going for it more often or they're punting. Maybe they're like, whatever, it's 6-3. I'm punting this thing. Defense has been holding them, especially we got all these punters that are pinning them inside the 20 every time. But, well, you got a lot of punters there, Tip.
I did.
Appreciate that.
Hey, you're welcome. Absolutely.
We have a lot of punters and kickers that follow Group of Five guys on Twitter. And so, we're special teams guys and offensive linemen are our biggest supporters. They're the most similar to us. They're the fellas. You know what I mean? They're the guys that just want to hang out, have a couple beers, sit on the recliner, sit on the lazy boy, watch Jersey Shore Thursday night before you go to Whiskey Dick's and just have a good time. But anyway, that's all we got on that show. Couple of things, guys. First things first, we need y'all to call the hotline. Our next 5 episodes, okay, so we're going to take 2 weeks off, one for the 4th next week, and then we just take kind of a breather. And then we're 6 weeks away at that point. So we're going to do 5 straight episodes, a different conference. Every episode will be every week at that point. So we'll probably, I don't know what order we're going to do it in yet. We'll probably do Sunbelt last because that's our biggest following. So we're going to make you guys wait. But we're going to do those 5. We need you to call the hotline with your picks, so let's say we're going to do MAC first. And of course we'll announce it on the social medias, but need you to call the hotline. Give us your predictions. Give us your, predicted order of finish, your best players, anybody that we missed on our 2, top players to watch list. As we get to the conference, we can dig in a little bit more. We'll get deeper on the depth charts for start looking at stuff like that.
Call us and let us know why you think your team's going to finish first this year. We want to hear your case and we want to talk about it.
Yeah,
I would like to hear.
You James Madison fans, don't be mad after the fact that we have that episode. Call before, give us your take.
Yeah, and tell us who you are. Wasn't it that guy that didn't say who he was too, Jeff?
I think so. Hey, and shout out Big Game Boomers in the chat, catching the end of the episode.
Hey, what's up, Big Game Boomer?
I appreciate his last list was the top rivalry games.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a good bit of Group of 5 ones in the top 10 there. He had Western Kentucky had number 1 and number 8 or something like that.
It was the name. Rivalry names.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
100 Miles of Hate. You don't get much better than that.
No.
That's a really good one. Moonshine Throwdown was the other one for
number 1,
Western.
I think.
It was number 1, yeah.
But anyway, so we're going to have our conference previews coming up. So call the hotline at 615-900-4286. What is it, Jeff? A 2-minute limit or 3-minute limit?
2-minute limit.
Keep it down. And if you go over, too bad, because we can't be playing 3 voicemails from the same person. When we get into the conference and we get into the season, we start getting a lot of these things. So, we'll have to pick and choose the best ones on that. But please call, please leave your voicemail. Even if we don't play it, we'll probably talk about it. Other thing is we've got penciled in weeks. I think week 1, 2, and 3 is like it's penciled in, but it's might just be a 1 or 2 man show. But weeks 1 and 2, we've got penciled in. I don't know, Jeff. I'm thinking someplace warm.
I like it. I know
That's what I'm
exactly what
thinking.
you're talking about.
I'm thinking someplace warm where the beer flows like wine.
Salmon flock, what is it?
Yeah.
Or women flock like salmon capistrano.
Yeah, somewhere where we know somebody that can plug us into the social pipeline. But yeah, so we got the first 2 weeks. Week 1 is, I hate to say it, it's probably pretty obvious because I think there's one gigantic group of 5 game week 1. Week 2, there's a bunch, but we're going to get somewhere. We're going to have a good time. And then if everything is looking good, week 3 is going to be a potential game of the year type game. So I'll just keep that in my back pocket for everybody. Anything else, guys? Did we miss anything?
Oh, I think we hit all the notes, bro.
I think we covered it. Yeah.
I think we're good. You guys make sure to download Prize Picks. Use our code GOFG. Like we said earlier in the show, if you do like the show, you enjoy hanging out with us, participating, we need you to follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of 5 Guys. Go to group5guys.com. You can get you some Group of 5 Guys swag, like this T-shirt I got on, like this little magnet behind me. Put it on the fridge there. Hang your kids' artwork projects on the fridge with our Group of 5 Guys magnet. Call the hotline 615-4286. Subscribe, like, give us a 5-star rating and review wherever you stream your best podcasts. That's probably the number one thing that can help us. Just getting those clicks, getting those likes, comments. We try to respond to every comment on YouTube. So if you comment, we'll try to get to it. Guys, we're single digits away.
Close.
Coming up this Saturday, we'll be at 7 Saturdays away from week 0 kickoff. It's a couple good ones, week 0, but I think we got San Diego State might be the only group of 5. I think it's the only group of 5 game. San Diego State. I may boycott week 0. You get to watch.
I was going to say, are they even group of 5 anymore? I mean, they've already put in their 2 weeks notice, essentially.
I mean, when you look at what San Diego,
as an employer, I just say, just don't worry about coming back.
Most employers are that way. Do you know that if you put in your 2 weeks, because nobody in their right mind is going to give a damn in their last 2 weeks of working. I mean,
no, well, half the time they don't show up anyways. So then off the jump.
Right.
Like, no.
Right. And it's like, just, enjoy the 2 weeks vacation and get ready to start your new thing. But San Diego State, I hope they somehow get screwed and got to go independent for a couple of years or something like that. But anyway, that's all we got for you guys tonight. We'll catch you in 3 weeks. 2 weeks from, 3 weeks. Yeah. In 3 weeks it'll probably be the MAC, maybe Mountain West preview show. Looking forward to it. Group of 5 Guys. We are out of here.